Hey friend, it's me, Bobby B. Welcome back to the Tilt and Shift Photography Business Podcast. Friends, I have a very cool person joining us today, and I am super stoked because I've wanted to talk to him for quite a bit because he kind of like burst into my stream of consciousness. I don't know, maybe like a couple of years ago. And I looked back at some of his old work, his previous work, and I was like, yeah, it's nice. But then something happened to him and shit got really beautiful and intentional and meaningful and like just hit you in the heart. Good stuff. He's funny. He shares a ton about his family. He's super personable. And I just need to know more about him. And I have a feeling that he's going to share with us a very big shift, if not a million little tilts. Um, because that just looks like that's what's happened in his life. So we're going to figure out if my hunches are on point. And we're going to talk to a guy who's been published in Martha Stewart Wedding and in Harper's Bazaar and some other amazing places that he doesn't even need to validate his work. You just go to his website and you're like, holy shit, who is this guy? Okay, so who am I talking about? It's Daniel Kim. Daniel Kim is here with me today. Let's welcome him. All right, friends.
I
Daniel Kim
want
is
to
here.
say, yes, I did. I did do the homework.
Excellent. Yes, I asked him. I give all my guests a little bit of homework, and I just checked in with Daniel to see if he did his, and there was a look of shock, and then confirmation.
Yes. I'm a wing it as you go kind of guy.
So am I. I do not understand um artists or photographers specifically, because that's the medium that I work in, but people who like make things up. Do you know what I mean? Because like my brain doesn't work like that at all. It doesn't make things up. I respond to what I see. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I
Is
mean,
that how
that's
you
what
are?
that's what photos is. That's what photography is, really, right? Like we see a scene, and then our response is basically like, how are we going to take this?
Yeah, but there's also lots of photographers who like intricately set things up, right?
Oh, I see.
Yeah. I think doc photographers and especially wedding photographers, family photographers, we definitely need to respond to what's going on. But then there's like
Mhm.
portrait and boudoir and all of those other genres that and conceptual that just really blow my mind. And because my mind just doesn't work like that.
But maybe I think like with wedding photography, right? It's like reactive, right? Because
Mhm.
we're at an event, we don't know what's happening, we're
Mhm.
reacting to it. But I think there's also that element of we do get to make it up in a sense because, like, for example, if you're framing the scene a certain way,
Mhm.
and it requires you to like step out of the room and then like go on the other side of this wall. Well, like you're manipulating the situation, not manipulating the situation, you're
Mhm.
manipulating the scene by where you choose to stand. And so you're bringing in all these other elements to make this you're creating at that. You're just instead of making something like out of thin air and like getting a set and like getting props and things like that, you're doing it on the fly. That's why
Yeah.
I was trying to tell somebody like wedding photography, it does require, for me, I've noticed I'm always trying to add in skill sets, skill
Yeah.
set, skill set, skill set, skill set.
Yeah.
So kind of have to be like a Swiss Army knife in a way.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
really are, right? Because we're event photographers and portrait photographers and photojournalists and all of these. And we also have to respond to all of the emotions that and all the people management, right? Even if you're not
Hmm.
necessarily managing people,
Hmm.
you're dealing with a wide variety of people. It's not just the one person that you're collaborating with. I feel like I'm collaborating with everybody who's there, not
Yes.
just my client, right?
Hmm. Yeah, and it comes into like this thing where it's like, at what point is there artistry involved? Because I was in that same discussion, I was talking with somebody, and then he was just like, "Well, but what you're taking photographs, like you're just documenting." I was like, "Yeah, but I'm documenting with like my eye. He goes, well, but okay, like let's just say there's a news photographer, he's documenting the news, or there's like just a sports photographer, like at a high school football game, he's like the staff photographer, just getting photos of the kids. He's like, at what point does it transition to art? And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
that is true. Like
Mm-hmm.
for forensic photography, like
Mm-hmm.
you're document, like we everything is photos. So at
Mm-hmm.
what point is it art, and at what point is it just a photo
Yeah,
or a document?
I love that question because I think that's where we really struggle as photographers. That is like there's so many photographers who don't see themselves as artists
Mm,
because photography has a utilitarian use in our society, right?
hmm.
Like as you say, like forensics or like just showing up and but I mean like if those people thought of themselves as artists, I think you could arguably say that they could be, like I would love to shoot forensics.
Yeah, I think it's just if you choose it to be, maybe because
Yeah.
like I would imagine someone figured out how to make pencil to
Hmm.
write, but at some point someone was like, well, I don't want to just write with it. I want to draw something, right?
Hmm.
And it's kind of like with photo, like it was made to document,
Yeah.
but then people come along and be like, well, this is just a tool. Like this is just a tool that I can use, and so my intent is to make art out of it. I don't know. I don't know.
I love
What
it. I
we're
think we
starting
can figure it
this
out.
podcast is, yeah, yeah.
Are you an artist
So
or are you a business person? I talk with this a lot, like with my students, because they stumble
mhm.
on this, right? Like, because calling yourself an artist is, um, I think it comes with lots of fears, maybe that are instilled
Mhm.
in us from our parents of like how hard an artist's life is, or like, or
Yeah,
there's like, right? Or there's like a
yeah.
prestige that only certain people get to be artists, and you have to like there's stereotypes about what artists are. Um, and then when you're, especially if you're like trying to make a living at it, or like you're a wedding or commercial or family photographer, there comes in these like the business side of stuff that people don't always think plays well with artistry. And I am on a mission, Daniel, to tear that apart.
Ooh. It's interesting that you talk about the artist and the art and the business because I think, and I've actually come to this myself, right? Because I see myself as an artist. Like I do see myself as an artist before a business, and I see myself as an artist before like, just like I'm here for a job to shoot this film, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Like I'm actually at that job because I want to be there. It's another opportunity for
Hmm.
me to make art for
Hmm.
people. And I'm making art for myself, but ultimately it's a service-based business. Like I'm making art for myself for them,
Hmm.
right? And I'm making art for them. But when it comes to like I have this struggle, and it was like the stereotype. It's interesting you bring this up because I went to art school, right? I went to art school. I majored in fine art and photography, like, or have a bachelor in fine art in photography.
Hmm.
Um, and none of my professors, maybe like one, and they didn't know that I shot weddings because I was shooting weddings at the time. And it was like this thing where it's just like, no, like this is a conceptual art school. Like
Hmm.
we're shooting 4x5 alternative processes. We're having these serious discussions. And then I'm on the other side, like I do that Monday through Friday. And then Saturday I go to weddings. It's like, yay, weddings. Like,
Yeah.
and it was, but I really loved both. And so my
Yeah.
perception was like, dang, like all my professors, they're professors, they don't make a ton, but their stuff is in galleries and it's like very
Yeah.
serious business.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say I bought into it, but I thought that's what an artist was.
Right.
And it was hard for me to see myself as an artist with photos, like with wedding photos.
Hmm.
Um, but because I thought that there was a lot of reasons for that, but one of the big reasons was it's a business. Like
Hmm.
it is a business. Wedding photography, no matter what it is, it's an art. But at
Mhm.
the end of the day, like unless you're shooting for free every
Mhm.
time, it's a business.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to come to this point where you're allowed to be two separate people. I see the wedding photography art aspect, like making the photos, that's the product.
Mhm.
But just because you make a, you still have to market and sell that. And
Correct.
you have to think about it. You have to separate yourself. And
Mhm.
so once I realized like I don't have to be the same person selling my art, I can actually like just make a switch and really think like a business person. That's when it actually was easier for me to be an artist because I didn't feel like I had to compromise anything for my art. It was more like, let me make this first. And then later on, business Daniel will take care of how to sell this or sell it. But it's really just
Service.
putting the work out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I, it's really crazy because like out of a lot of people that I know who went through art school or photo school, most people don't do photos anymore.
Mm.
Like they don't shoot photos. You know, they ended up becoming like firefighters or they ended up just getting regular jobs. But when we were in art school, we were so passionate about it. Like we slept in the dark room. I mean, we're so passionate about it, but we're in a regimented, not regimented, but we're in a structured environment. You have to come to class.
Mhm.
You have to make a series.
Mhm.
You have to come to critique. You
Mhm.
have to contribute to, and that's all stuff that artists do. Like they go out and make work, they come back, they critique, they print, they sleep in the dark room. But then what happens when no one is doing that for you?
Mhm.
And so I started looking at art like, well, man, do I really want to do this? Like, do I really want to make photo my job?
Yeah.
It's my passion, but it's
Mhm.
also my job. And I started looking at treating photography as if it was like a sport.
Yeah. Oh, I love this.
So like, well, okay. Like it was a lot of like, why aren't I getting the work that I want? Well, you're
Mhm.
not going out and shooting. Why aren't you going out and shooting? Well, you're always tired. Well, why are you always tired? Because you're always staying up on your phone, like scrolling, and then you go to bed at like 2, 2 a.m. and then you have to wake up at 6, and then you have to,
Yeah.
after all that, you got to edit, but you're slow when you're editing, and then it's taking you forever, and then you're running out of time, and it's like, okay, like I'm sabotaging myself. Like if I'm serious about my art, like I'm going to bed
Yeah.
earlier so that I can get my editing done faster, so that I have free time, but I'm actually going to use that free time to like experiment. And
Mhm.
it's a lot of discipline. It's like
Yeah, you had to become
no
an
one,
athlete.
you have to become an athlete and
Yeah.
treat it like so.
I
Yeah.
love that analogy, Daniel, because I come from an athletic background. And when I started like, because to me, a wedding feels like a tournament.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
you get in there, you're dressed, you got your uniform on, you got your game plan, you're drinking your water, you're like figuring out, and you also have the skills because you're ready when shit goes sideways and you're not sure, but you're like, I've
Mhm.
trained for this, I've done this before, I
Mhm.
did this in practice. Now I can like try out this new skill or this new strategy, right? Like there's so any jocks out there that are listening to this, I think will find if that you can think about your artistry in the same way that you think about training for sports. They're so similar, and there's so much like beauty in sports, right? Like in coordination and in lines and in movement,
Mhm.
and photography is so similar. Our art is so similar. I love that you said that.
And it's like it's very apparent. It was became very apparent to me when because I live in Arizona, right? So I don't shoot here as much anymore, but in the summer it gets to like 118, 120 degrees. So you would imagine in like this past October, it was like
Brutal.
105 in October,
No.
right? And so, but the thing is that like the photographer has to be outside that whole time for 10 hours,
Yeah, you got to be
8
in shape.
hours, 10 hours. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things too where man, like you're just drenched. I wear a suit because I wear a suit, not a suit, but I dress. I wear a blazer, and so you're that's part of when I looked at my how I present myself, right?
Mhm.
I'm an artist, but I'm still a professional, and so I'm going to show up like trying to um, dress the best that I can, given this condition that it's going to be 105 degrees. But it really is because I noticed that when I can handle it a little bit more, I'm less cranky. Like I'm
Yeah.
less, I'm not that I'm usually cranky, okay? But it's more like I can handle it and I'm okay being uncomfortable. So when a
Yeah.
guest comes over and they're like, hey, can you take a photo of us? And I'm not like, I'm all like, dude, yes, please, like
Yeah.
all the photos. Because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, how I feel is it's gonna reflect on my face.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And
in your art.
yeah, and in my art, and it's like one of those things too, is like this is a service-based business. No one wants like someone serving them, like a waiter serving them with
Mhm.
a scowl on their face, like knowing that they're like,
Yeah.
And so it really everything I've realized comes into play. There's like this
Mhm.
holistic approach, at least for me,
Mhm.
into how I move through my business and like wedding space.
Yeah.
I don't
You
think you can separate like I don't think you can separate yourself too much from any aspect of it.
Mhm.
You can make the art first and then become a different person to and be
Mhm.
a business person, but it all ties in. Like
Yeah.
the more I do this, I'm starting to realize.
Yeah, that they're not different, right? Like they're
Mhm,
two facets of the same brain. Like we don't
mhm,
have to be the artist and then the business person. They we put on that uniform at different times in the day
mhm,
and in the week and in the year, right? Um,
mhm,
I think if we separate them too much, then that like lets doubt about one or the other seep in because we there's kind of this perception that you have to you can only be one thing, you know, like you have to
yeah.
like what are you going to be when you grow up? I'm going to be this thing, and then that's the only thing you ever are. But as an entrepreneur in a creative field, you have to wear many hats. You have to be the athlete, you have to be the artist, you have to be the business person. And I think I think that I see them more as like a Venn diagram rather than being totally
Mm.
separate, right?
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because I have been thinking about this a lot, mainly from like at least how the people that I've seen do it are people who like are musicians and then
Mhm.
they branch off into like another genre.
Mhm.
Um, and I think it comes down to like creativity. Like just because you're creative if you're creative in one field, you're more than likely able to be creative in another field.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those things where we look at art as I think at least I think this is how people do it. I think people look at art as like that's something that that person is. That's something that
Yeah.
that person does. That's not me. Like I'm a linebacker. Like I like lifting weights. Like I'm not like an artist,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
I like watching like football and like you know, but then why not? Because it's it's like you said. Like I wrote it here. Like there's a lot of stereotypes that come with artists, and I wonder like how many people don't go for it because they feel like,
Mhm.
well, that's not who I am. Like
Yeah.
I don't fit that mold of an
Yeah.
artist,
Yeah.
right? But there's like everyone's an artist.
Yeah. Yeah. Art is a form of expression, right? And expression is like an innate human trait. We want to express ourselves.
Hmm.
And if we pigeonhole art as expression, then that stops people from expressing themselves, right? Because they don't see themselves as an artist. Like if we stereotype what an artist is, or like really narrowly define what that is. Because I used to think that an artist was someone who went to art school, right?
Yeah.
And have that training. And honestly, it wasn't until probably like 4 years ago when I was like, I'm an artist. Like this is
Hmm.
what I'm doing. And then my business got better when I started thinking of myself as an artist. which was very incongruent. I didn't expect that to happen.
It's interesting because it's like I think for anyone listening, like one of the things that has helped me a lot is this thing that as this phrase, right? And this is just my personal belief, but like most people been have gone through life, through society, that if you do this thing, you'll have this thing and you'll be that person. So
Yeah.
do have be. But
Yeah.
it's like the easier way to think about it is be have do. And you think like, okay, well, what does an artist do? Like, if they're serious about it, well,
Mhm.
if I want to be like, let's just photographer. I want to be a photographer. I get so many people, and this is like, it's so crazy because so many people come up to me, hey, what kind of camera should, not even like what kind of camera should I get? Oh, I want to get into it. Like, I want to get into photography, but like, I'm not creative. And I go, dude, no, see, you're stopping yourself right there
Yeah.
because I'm not creative. I'm not an
Mhm.
artist.
Mhm.
But neither was I until I just decided to do it.
Yeah.
And so like do have be is like, well, if I do this thing, then I'll have this thing and then I'll be an artist.
Right.
But then most people don't even get to the do part because they're just like, well, I'm not an artist to begin with, so why?
Right.
And
So
I
start
think the
with be.
better way to look at it is be have do.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm an artist. Okay, well, what does an artist do? Like
Yeah.
an artist who's serious.
Yeah.
Well, if you're a photographer, he probably goes out and takes photos. Okay, but then it's like it doesn't say it's like a hero's journey,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Like the Rocky montage training, like dun, 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 dun,
Yeah.
right? He's like doing push-ups. But if you had Rocky the movie without the training montage,
Oh my
I
God, it would
don't
be so
care
boring.
about Rocky. The
No.
training montage is what makes Rocky,
Yeah.
right? And so for me, when I look at learning anything, right,
Mhm.
starting anything, I imagine like, okay, yeah, if I was to start out shooting photos, okay, to get good, like you have to go out and take photos,
Mhm.
but you have to like also imagine yourself like taking photos that are not good
Yeah. We don't, not a few
because
people
that's
don't do
what
that.
because that's what's going to
That's
happen.
part of it.
And
Yeah.
and then when you imagine yourself taking photos that are not good, imagine what you're going to do after.
Mhm.
And that's who, if you're like, well, that's what an artist does. Like they keep
Mhm.
doing it over and over and over, and you realize, oh, I'm an artist.
Mhm.
I guess that's what I'm gonna do now.
Yeah.
It's like it's like a pre your for me it was predetermining a path in my mind and
Mhm.
being like, oh, okay, well, that's probably what an artist would do, like if they're serious about it. So I guess that's what I'm gonna do.
Mhm.
Instead of saying, so it's be have do.
Yeah.
And because I believe in it, I'm just gonna now be like, well, that's me. Well, that's what I'm gonna do.
Mhm. How did you come to that realization? Was that one of your shifts?
Yeah.
Was that your
So
homework, Daniel?
no, it's so wait, I'm gonna cough real quick
Okay.
and get a drink of water. Um, so that was a concept actually. I went to this thing called Hoffman process.
Okay.
It's a retreat in Petaluma, California.
Mhm.
Um, and you heal your like inner child. Essentially, you're kind of
Mhm.
like reparenting, and
Yeah.
they call it like 10 years of therapy in 1 week. So you're cut off from the outside world for 7 days. You're not allowed to run. You're not allowed to pray, meditate. You're not allowed to drink alcohol. You're like, because they want you to like sit with yourself.
Ugh.
Like you can't escape. You can't work out. You can't, you know.
What?
And you're in a group with 30 people and you journal. It's a lot of journaling.
Yeah.
It's not anything like crazy. You don't ingest anything, and they just have you think about your past and like any like kind of negative pattern that you have currently in your life. You're basically trying to fix it. And it has
Hmm.
something to do with essentially how you see yourself based on
Yeah.
how what happened in your childhood. And so for me, a lot of it was like self-worth in my work, right? Because for me, I was a workaholic
Mm.
and amongst many other things, right? But I went to this place and I do have a lot of self-worth, used to have a lot of self-worth in my work. And then that was like, well, if I work really hard, then I'll have these like great photos and then
Hmm.
I'll be awesome. Versus, and so it was like, but and it works. It's like, fear is a very great motivator.
Oh, is it?
Fear of failure is a very great motivator, but it will destroy you. Like it will destroy you. And what's the point if it's just gonna like fry you out of me?
Hmm.
And so I went to this place, and part of it was that, you know, do have B, like do have B is like a vicious cycle. Because you're gonna always have to keep doing, and you'll
Hmm.
never feel like you are
Oh
like
my God, that
that
makes so
B.
much sense. Yeah.
But if you realize your self-worth, because for me, when I looked, my art changed a lot over the past year, especially, because or 2 years, 2 years. But for me, it was a lot of, well, if like for me, an artist takes risk, right? Battle that. And for me, it was more of this like anytime I came home and I didn't like I played it safe, I always regretted it.
Mm.
I always regretted it. And there was like this point where I was just like, you know what? No, like they hired me. My clients hired me to be an artist, like because that's kind of like my clients hired me to be an artist. Well, fuck it. I'm an artist. Then I'm gonna full send this because that's
Yeah.
who I am.
Yeah.
And then it's easier that way for me.
Yeah. What did, just so people understand, because sometimes people don't know when they're playing it safe, right? So you had a certain amount of self-awareness or something happened to make you realize that you were playing it safe. So what did playing it safe look like for you, Daniel?
Knowing what my photo was gonna look like.
Oh, like being able to predict the outcome.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And because like it was more of like this. Playing it safe would be like, man, like when they do their first kiss, am I gonna stand in the center?
Mm.
Man, but if you go all the way over here and you're shooting it with a maybe it's like with a Holga,
Oh
maybe
God.
it comes out, maybe,
Yeah.
you know, but it's kind of like, and everyone's like, yeah, but what if it doesn't? It's like, yeah, true. And then so like there's that little bit of me that's like, yeah, you go to the center, go to the center. And
Yeah.
I'll take it. And then every time I'm just like,
Damn.
yeah, yeah, I should have just went for it. Because the other side is, yeah, okay, what if it doesn't work? But it's like, okay, what if it does?
What if it does? Exactly.
Like, what if that in that one photo, it's like one photo is like, what if it worked?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's you never the feeling isn't the same. And if the feeling isn't the same for me, like, or if the feeling is there, like it works, right? Like it worked out.
Yeah.
Well, imagine that feeling for the client because that's their photos and
Yeah.
just being blown away by like this, like not every photo has to be like, right? But just having, I think that one photo where it's just like, this is the one.
Nailed it.
That's, yeah. And it's a very small target. And I think your target should be small because
Hmm.
like if the target, like let's just say that um, there's a target behind me, like 100 yards away, and the target is as big as like a poster board, right? And you
Hmm.
just say, hey, hit the target, right? And you hit it. Well, that's such a big area to like hit within.
Yeah.
But the smaller the target, the more like zoned in you have to be. And
Mhm.
you might have been able to hit that big target. It's a wide target, but you put like a quarter, that small target, it forces you to be more accurate.
Mhm.
It forces you to be more accurate. So I have a very small target every time I shoot away. Because I might take a good photo, but my target is like, yeah, but is that the photo?
Mhm.
Like, is that where you're gonna stop?
Mhm.
Is what if something's happening right now on the dance floor? And I think about this every time I get tired, or if I start getting tired, I go, what if something? And
Yeah.
that's for me, that's what an artist who's really obsessed with their craft does. It's always that, but what if I can make
Right.
it? And then I just keep doing that at the wedding all the way up until the hours are done or the wedding is over.
Mhm.
But for me, a lot of times too, I love shooting after hours because after hours, it's like, even though I am I take a lot of risks during the wedding and I'm pretty like loosey goosey. For some reason, when I know I'm off the clock and I still have my camera, I go, this is all for me.
Yeah.
Every photo after this is for me.
Yeah.
And it's like I really go for it. And usually by
Right.
that time, weddings are like wild and there's a lot of stuff happening. It's like a lot of times it's like being in a candy store. Just
Mhm.
so much stuff to work with, you
Yeah.
know? So
Yeah.
yeah. It's
I
like an
love that.
athlete. You're just trying to push that line.
I was just gonna say that, Daniel. And
Yeah.
it's just like an athlete, right? You're always working to see if like how much more accurate you can get, or like what skill do you need in order to like
Mhm.
do the thing that no one else has done. Um, or that very few people can do, right?
Mhm.
Are you competitive? Like with yourself?
Yeah, you know what? I am. I used to be. But it's interesting because like before I went to that retreat, I would say that I used to be. I am
Yeah.
very competitive. I'm very hard on myself, even now, right? I'm still working on stuff that retreat like gave me tools for.
Mhm.
But I think instead of, and I don't think of it now though, because I'm still like competitive with myself. I don't think of it as someone saying, like you need to like I'm because I imagine like voices like a drill sergeant next to me,
Mhm.
right? And I used to actually work out with my earphones with the drill sergeant in the earphone.
Yeah.
Like but now I think of it as more of like instead of someone pushing me saying like you suck, like you this is why you suck, you need to push harder like that. I think
Mhm.
of it more as just like you deserve this. Like you deserve this, but that's why you're gonna work for it.
Yeah.
Because you know you deserve this but
Right.
you know it takes work and that's why you're going to work
Oh, what a nice
hard.
shift.
It's
Yeah,
the
from
same thing.
yeah. Yeah, you're still working hard, but are you working at it from a punishment perspective or from a reward perspective?
hmm this carrot is works always works better than the stick.
Yeah. Yeah. Why do you think we have such a perception that the stick works? Like, why do you think we do that to ourselves?
I think a lot of it could be that it's hard for us to forgive ourselves
Hmm.
and I think a lot of it is belief. Like
Belief?
belief is even dumb belief is so stupid
What do you
strong.
mean?
Like someone believing in themselves that they deserve it, I'm that person is scary, actually. Because to them, they they see it as their birthright
Hmm.
because they deserve it. And it's hard to take the birthright away from somebody. They will fight tooth and nail for it. But if someone thinks that they have to like earn it, right?
Hmm.
Like earn it, earn it, earn it. Well, but who's gonna tell you you earned it? Because
Yeah.
you're in. You're the one that's supposed to tell yourself. So at
Yeah.
what point are you gonna say, yeah, I earned it?
Yeah.
And it works. It's helped so many people, right? So many people achieve a great things, but it's also brought the downfall of so many people because they can't, they have so many demons. And
Hmm.
so I think a lot of people, I just don't think that I think it's a forgiveness on themselves because
Hmm.
I think a lot of people think, I fucked up.
Right.
Well, I guess that means I'm a fuck up. That's the
Right.
do have be. If
Right.
I fuck up, if I mess up, I'll say fuck up because it makes
It's
sense with the
fine.
word fuck up.
It's fine.
Okay, then I am a fuck.
Yeah.
But the be have do is if I fucked up, the be person goes, but that's not who you are.
Right.
So next time, don't do that. Or do
Right.
better because that's not who you are.
Right.
The person who is do have be, they think, well, I did that, so I am that.
Therefore, I
Well,
am.
I
Yeah.
am that, so that's what I'm gonna just do again.
Right.
I don't deserve any better.
Yeah.
And I think for artists, I see a lot of people, or not artists, but a lot of people who don't see themselves as artists. That's what I see.
Hmm.
I see them say, well, I haven't done it yet, so I'm not.
Right. Yeah.
And I just go, man, there's so much good art being left on the table.
Hmm.
And I think a society has a lot to do with this belief too. The
Absolutely.
society wants you to, in my opinion, okay, people, society wants you to fit their mold because that's, society has a set of rules and a set of standards, and a lot of it is great. It's good standards, right?
Hmm.
But is there room to be something different? Is there room to be someone
Hmm.
different, And are you
Yeah.
okay breaking away from maybe what is the norm?
Yeah.
So,
When you did that, did you ever have concerns that, uh, because I think a lot of people don't want to do that because they worry about being accepted and they worry about, and even in the example that you used of taking the chance with that first kiss shot, what if the client doesn't like that photo? Like, so the question I'm asking
mm,
is what we're so we're so conditioned for external validation.
mhm.
What if you do the thing that you're like, yeah, I nailed it, and the other people are like, no, or there's no like external rejoicing that you did the thing that you were being,
ah,
you know,
I it's I see attracting clients as the same thing as attracting energy.
attracting energy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because you
Tell me.
attract the energy you put out, right?
Hmm.
The energy you put out, usually that's what you attract, right? The types of clients I put out the work that I like,
Hmm.
no matter how like weird it is. And if a client comes to me, they've usually gone through the work and they're okay. They're
Yeah.
like, yeah, but that's why I think it's so important to really like make clear what I like because it's like, hey, here's the thing. And it's interesting because I had this conversation with a potential client yesterday, and what he said was, because I told him about the risk part. And he
Hmm.
said, and I guess we're okay with the risk because I guess a lot part of the risk too is you can only see the wedding from your perspective. So like we're just trusting your perspective. Now it's
Ding,
just
ding,
like,
ding, 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 ding,
whoa.
ding.
Because to him, he was like, his experience of the wedding is going to be different than mine as a groom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's going to be times where I'm not with him and he's having this whole, it's everyone's a guest view of the wedding is different than the next guest view of the wedding.
Totally.
Everyone has a different perspective of the wedding. That means that if there are 200 guests there are 200 versions of the story. And I am just one of them. So then like, what makes that? I mean, that's a very humbling thing to
Yeah.
realize that you cannot, there's no way that you can capture everything to the truth, but I can capture it to what I like and my taste, right?
Mhm.
And if and it's kind of like this. I love barbecue. Some people don't like barbecue, but I love barbecue. Or let's go even more specific. Like there's like this Asian pear. I love the taste of this Asian pear,
Mhm.
right? Well, and I make it known,
Mhm.
right? I make it known. I put it out on my little stand and there's little slices of Asian pears. People come and like just pretend that stand of that those Asian pears is like Instagram, right? Well, people come, they're like, they take a look, they take a bite, they go, I like that.
Mhm.
If someone doesn't like that, they're not gonna hire me.
Mhm.
But if they do like it, they're gonna hire me and we have the same taste or
Yeah.
they're very similar. So if I trust myself and only put out what I like,
Mhm.
the people who like it probably are okay with whatever my tastes are.
Yeah.
So then at that point, I have to trust myself.
Yes. Yeah, and I think
That's the
that's
only thing you can do.
exactly, and that's the piece. You have to trust yourself in order for your clients to trust you, right?
Mhm.
100%. Did you discover some of that when you were going through your Hoffman process, or were these things that were occurring to you before?
It was before, like a lot of it too was going to John Dolan's retreat
Mhm.
and him like unblocking a lot of ways I was thinking. That was definitely a big,
Mhm.
um, and then, but that was specifically just for my art, but the person was still suffering,
Yeah.
which meant the art was still technically suffering.
Yeah.
And I thought I was like, I thought I was, it was so interesting because before I went to this retreat, I thought I had learned enough, you know,
Yeah.
and then I went to the retreat. In terms of making art,
Yeah.
and then I went to the retreat, and then when I started changing as a person internally,
Yeah.
then my art kept changing. I was like, I didn't know I could think like this,
Yeah.
and so it was interesting. It was like I keep wondering how much further. I just think it's like Kaizen. There's always something that you can do to make it better.
Yeah.
But my wife is also really funny because she's also like, and she brings. I love her because she's so common sense. She also is like always like, this is all great, but also remember, we're not brain surgeons. We're taking photos for people.
Mhm.
And a lot of this was like, there's a lot of times I get so caught up with the art aspect, and my wife is always there to say like, but this is a service. Like this is a service based.
Yeah.
So because I would still be hard on myself, but she's always like, the clients are gonna love the photos no matter what. Like no matter what,
Yeah.
because you're providing them a service and they're doing the best you can. And I think the best part, at least for wedding photography, comes when we have that part of service. Because I think when you have that part of service, people open up,
Yeah.
and you need I for the business of human connection. That's maybe one of the best ways as a vendor to create a human connection with your
Heart of service. So what does that look like for you?
what that looks yeah what that looks like is if a guest comes up to me and they go, hey, can you take a photo of us? It's like, yes, please. And if it's like if they ask me in the middle of speeches, because like older people sometimes like they come up, they're like, can you take a I was like, the first after I shoot the first dance. But it really is like it's like me, I have to remember like, I don't know this person. Who's this person coming up to me? I'm shooting the first dance right now. Like it's obviously happening. But this person is handpicked by the bride and groom. Handpicked. Well, if they're important to the bride and groom, then you know what? They're really important to me. And
Nice.
so if that, and the other thing too is I've been looking at a lot of my photos recently of group shots.
Uh-huh.
Let me see if I can find this. I've been looking at a lot of photos of group shots, and I've really been loving group photos. Just like everyone getting together. It's it's one of those things where I don't know if I have this. It's just one of those things where it's like when you open up the old family box of photos, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just a photo of everyone at dinner, and someone just like got up and got a camera. It's like everyone look over here, and they
Yeah.
took the photo. At the
Yeah.
time, that photo is it's just like oh whatever. That's just like it's we all have those on our iPhone, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But give it like 20 years, and that photo is
Mm.
invaluable, invaluable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I've been thinking about that. At the time, I'm not looking at it as like, oh, this is a work of art. But I think there are other tangible stuff, like intangibles. I think time is an intangible. I think
Mm.
time is an aesthetic. The
Okay.
more time passes, the more it, like old buildings, right?
Right.
Old buildings that nothing's happened. It hasn't been destroyed. It hasn't been, but little bits here and there. It's wearing on the building, but
Yeah.
it's not giving it's not degrading it. It's giving it a patina.
Mm-hmm.
And a patina, like a patina on a camera that's worn in and the paint's coming off a little bit and the brass is coming through. There is something to it. And I think photographs can do that. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that looking at wedding photography in that way, what
Mm-hmm.
photographs are going to patina?
Yeah.
And for me, those group photos that come out of an act of service, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those patina really well. And
Yeah.
I always tell my clients like, hey, um, you come to me at 100 times tonight if you need to. Can you get a photo of me with them? Can you get a photo of me with them? Because you also never know. Like I think a lot of people only see those as this is an opportunity. Like this is all just a pose group photo, which it is. It's a pose
Mm-hmm.
group photo. But guess what? They're
Mm-hmm.
paying you to take that post group photo, and it's
Yeah.
really important to them. These people are
Mm-hmm.
really important to them, and so they're really important to me.
Yeah.
And once you let people know that, and if you're able to, I think, get people to connect with you, that
Mm-hmm.
group photo ends up becoming, let's see if I can find one. That group photo ends up becoming like, um, that group photo ends up becoming an opportunity to catch like interaction. Because as
Mm-hmm.
people are coming into a group photo, no one's ever seeing the bride being like, oh my God, seeing the bride at the wedding and they haven't really seen her yet and everyone's getting in for a group photo. No one's going up, taking the photo, and then walking away. They're
Mm-hmm.
gonna like hug the bride. They're gonna say, oh my God, you look beautiful. That's photos coming out of a photo.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
see like I I look through full galleries of people who come to me for like critiques or for mentor, and there's something there's gaps right there.
Yeah.
There's group photo, group photo, group photo, group photo, but then it's like, but what about when they were hugging? What
Mm-hmm.
about when they were, you know, like
Yeah.
laughing? And it's like, oh my God, she's like, you look so beautiful. She grabs her
Yeah.
face,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. Those are the photos.
I agree.
So I think just having that heart of service, it it allows you to think about it with an open mind, be honest,
Mm-hmm.
and being like, yeah, it's not sexy. It's not sexy taking group photos,
Mm-hmm.
but is it just because I think it's beneath me?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it because I'm not allowing it to be something more when it actually is something more,
Yeah.
right?
And it's kind of everything.
It's kind of everything.
I wonder
Sorry, I don't
though.
know where I'm going with this.
No, no,
Yeah.
I love where we're going with this because this is pulling in those pieces of both business and artistry, but also um, when we first started talking, we were saying how are we being reactive or like are we directing or are we documenting? You know, like so there's some photographers who really want to direct. So if they're making that group photo, they want it to look at a certain way rather than um, as a documenter, just letting the group photo happen. And there's going to be these variations of relationships that reveal themselves within that opportunity, right? Um, does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think it's just letting it happen, really. And
Yeah.
and I think it's letting it happen and being willing to accept whatever happens.
Mm-hmm.
Like my wife brought up this good point a while ago. She goes, like, because we were talking about first looks. So my wife was like, because we were talking about first looks and we're just saying like, yeah, like, the bride wants a first look. For me, like I never liked them because it just felt off. And my wife goes, well, I mean, we were just talking about it. She goes, man, how would a first look happen if there was no photographer? Like there's no photographer, how would it happen?
Mm-hmm.
Because if everyone knows there's no photographer, there's not all right, you go over there, you
Yeah.
come over here. There's no one doing that. How would it
Mm-hmm.
happen?
Yeah.
Would he come into her hotel room?
Mm-hmm.
Would they meet somewhere and they're just like, man, when did she? Oh my, hey, is that him? Is that him? Like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
How would it actually happen? And
Right.
so when I did, like, that kind of blew my mind because
Totally.
now when I do first looks, I always am like, people are like, how should we do the first look? And I look and I'm like, do you just want him to come in? And it's just so, because that's how it would normally happen.
Right.
We wouldn't
Yeah.
have the dad go out in the middle of a field and then make him wait for 20 minutes while we're trying to get, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
And it sounds so absurd when you describe it like that, right?
but you kind of do, right?
Yeah,
But if
totally.
there was no photographer there, the dad would be like,
Hey, babe.
hey, can I come in? And
Yep.
so that's what we started doing.
Yeah.
And we explain it to our clients like because it's like there's part of my job is helping my clients to unlearn what they think they should do. And I'm not trying
Yes.
to convince them to do
Yeah.
something my way. I'm just saying I first always ask, okay, why do you want to do it this way?
Mm.
That's it. And they go, well, I guess that's how we think it should supposed to be done. And I
Mm.
go,
Yeah.
okay, it's not going to be as pretty. It's not going to be under a tree, but I want you to think about it like this. I want you to think about the fact that doing this first look with your dad is going to be sitting out there 15 minutes or 10 minutes, even if it's 5 minutes. 5 minutes is a long time. Look one way. Like,
Don't turn around.
yeah. Or would you rather have him just come in? And I
Mm.
want you to, I tell them, I want you to put yourself in the situation on that day
Mm.
without thinking about photos. I want you to put yourself in that situation, like be there right now.
Yeah.
What kind of experience do you want? And
Yeah.
they always go, yeah, I guess my dad could just come in. And I think that's part of the patina. Part of the patina is that this is actually how it would have happened,
Yeah.
right? If there was no photographer
Yeah.
there. And because the thing about patina is it's not perfect. That's
Hmm.
why it looks so good, is because
Hmm.
it's not sterilized.
Yeah.
And so I love anything that will patina, including like I mean you kind of have to be there for the moment, right? So you kind of commit for first, right? Um, I think about it's about the experience, and I want the photo to reflect the experience. not an idea of the experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that. The photos that reflect the experience, not the idea of an
Mhm.
experience. Amazing. Because we do, I think that we have that service as a photographer because we've seen so much, right? And we are privy
Mhm.
to so many permutations and combinations of like of of photographs, but also schedules and locations and blah 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 blah. That once we are once we trust ourselves as artists, we kind of owe it to our clients to be like, hey, like just do your thing and don't make it about me because it doesn't have to be about me because I got my shit figured out already. You just do your
Mhm.
thing and it'll be beautiful, right? um I think some of that can come from um a lack, like when we don't trust ourselves, or like we want it to, we don't trust that the way it naturally happens is going to look nice or like look good, and
Mhm.
what the hell does looking good even mean, you know I wish that more
I
of,
al-
go ahead.
no. You were some more.
I wish that photographers would feel more free about that because it's messing up our heads on one of the most important days of people's lives.
Yeah, I always think about it like this. Do I want? Okay, when I think about like making it look perfect, I I just think, do I want this to look like a cat,
Mm,
or do I want it to look like something that was in Time magazine?
hmm
And a part of that is like that patina aspect. Like
hmm
the for example, I love having cars in my photos.
hmm
Like it's a weird thing that I'm like learning to love because looking at older photographs,
You can tell what
like
year it is.
yeah, you can tell what year it is. And back then, if right now, if I was to have my Corolla in the back, right, and now I'm not like, people aren't like, oh yeah, but give that 20 years. Oh my
Hmm
God, is that a Corolla?
Yeah, totally. Look at his wheels.
You, I know. Look at that. Oh my God, did it take gas? What the?
What?
But it is that thing, right?
That's so
And
cool.
that's what
Yeah.
makes a photo,
Yeah,
and it
totally.
helps like add to it. And so, whereas like an ad is like, what, like when is it? Like, there's nothing giving a reference to it. And I
Hmm
think you need like references
Yeah.
because the wedding did happen at a certain time, at a certain
Totally.
period of time. Like
Fashion and everything.
fashion, and even like with the pandemic, right? Like the mask thing.
Yeah.
Like I was going through workout and I was like, whoa, like seeing like the masks. And I was like, I have a period of photos where of weddings from this time period.
Right.
And it's like one of the, it's like, it's historical in a way. And I keep thinking like, because all those couples who got married during the pandemic, I
Yeah.
mean, they'll never
Yeah.
forget like just everything that came with it, you
Yeah.
know? And I think about things like
That's so powerful, Daniel. I love reframing it like that.
that. Yeah,
Thank you.
I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah. My wife,
So,
obviously, as you can tell, helps me. She's like my bouncing,
yeah.
like,
And she shoots with you?
yeah, she shoots some weddings with me.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's
she's
fun.
really good.
Well, listen, Daniel, we've been chatting for an hour and it's been
Oh,
amazing. Do you have anything else that you want to share? This has all been
um,
gold, by the way.
oh, thanks. Thanks for having me. No, I don't have too much that I want to share. I mean, I guess just for anyone listening, you know, that be have do aspect,
Yeah.
man, if I wish if the reason why I talk about things like that is if someone had like told me that way earlier, it would have saved me a lot
hmm
of heartache,
Yeah.
right?
Well, that brings up an
And
interesting,
yeah,
sorry, go ahead. Go
yeah, go
ahead.
ahead, go, no, go ahead.
Um, why do you think it came to you at that time in your life? I'm always curious about this stuff because sometimes the universe just sort of conspires and like is like, hey, let me give you throw you a bone here. Like, Like you,
Mm.
I had questioned this earlier. Like you had to have some sort of self-awareness. Like what drew you to do that? Like was it like an inkling or a feeling or like what did you tap into to recognize that's what you needed?
I mean, pain is a good indicator.
What
You
were your
know,
pains? Yeah.
dude, I was just making life harder. Like,
Yeah.
because I that self-worth wasn't there, the insecurities were there. And when you
Mm-hmm.
have insecurities, you lash out, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And the results, like seeing the results of what the external was reflecting the internal.
Right. Yes.
And so and I could see it, like happening. It's like a rash. So I'm getting this rash. So my
Mhm.
wife found this place called Business. I ended up going, and that was it. And it was
Yeah.
really like this sink or swim. Like, man, like okay, I'm gonna do this, you know.
Mhm.
Um, and I realized it was like one of those things where I didn't go in on purpose to like make my better, but it really is one of those things. The art comes from the artist, but the artist has to be flourishing as a person and in his life, and he
Yeah.
has to be healthy and
Yeah.
get enough sleep, and
Yeah.
and then the art
Yeah.
will come.
Yeah. No more of this like manic, depressed,
Suffering,
addicted, suffering,
yes,
suffering artist, right? Like,
the
no,
stereotype.
you're the athlete artist.
Yeah, I mean, because I think everyone deserves to feel good. Like I think everyone
Yeah.
deserves to like get 8 hours of rest.
No. I know.
Oh my
I
god.
don't understand how I don't like definitely earlier in my life, like I consumed a lot of substances that I thought were helping me, but no, that doesn't it's not sustainable. It doesn't it's just hiding what is really truly working out for you or what could be working out. You're
Mhm.
increasing the suffering. It's yeah. Yeah. The suffering artist
Yeah.
is a trope that we can smash right here, Daniel.
Yes. I'm so glad you brought that up in the beginning because I was like, I love this. I love this. Because yeah, no one has to suffer. Like
Yeah.
there should be no it might be one avenue, but I think it's just how you frame it.
Oh yeah,
Is
yeah,
it
yeah.
suffering? Yeah.
What's that phrase? Pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I love that.
Got good
Okay.
stuff happening here, Daniel.
Yeah. But yeah, if there's anything I could say is that you don't I mean, you're allowed to be whatever you want, essentially.
Yeah.
So, and if you're like like a football linebacker and you want to make art, like yeah, like make art. Like there's no one saying that. And if there is anyone saying that you can't, like
Fuck them.
screw them. Yeah, screw them. Like because no one should be able to tell somebody what they can and can't do,
Right.
especially with something like art. Because the only thing that art requires is really like your brain and your willingness to express. That's it.
Beautiful.
That's it.
Beautiful. Thank you, Daniel.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
It's been a delight.
Thank you. Likewise. I really like this. Yeah.
All right, my friend. I don't know about you, but that was super illuminating, and I'm so appreciative of Daniel for sharing his progress and his struggle and his triumphs and his training as an athlete, because you can be an athlete and an artist, my friend. You can be an artist and a business person. You can be an athlete and an artist and a business person. And um, coming from that heart of service, I hope that was a big um, illumination for me. If we help our clients with a heart of service, the meaningfulness of their images expand and increase with time. But if we're there with a vision of our own as to how things need to go and how they need to look, we're closing off an opportunity to make some really impactful art. Thank you for being here. I will follow up with you in the next episode with a few coaching tips from this exceptional light that Daniel has given us. And I hope you have a beautiful day. And thank you for listening.